Good afternoon. I'd like to start my presentation by introducing myself. My name is Caroline Miller. I'm an elementary education major at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina, and I'm a concentration in English language arts. I will be graduating in May of 2017. However, before doing so, I was presented with a really great opportunity to do some research on different differentiation techniques, but more specifically, I got to research different ways to use technology as a tool to differentiate instruction in the classroom, more specifically the elementary classroom, because that's what I'll be doing. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So one thing that I hear a lot, either from parents of my students or even teachers that have been doing it for 20 to 30 years, is, well, I didn't use that much technology in school and I turned out fine, which that's great, and that's true, but in the world that we live in, technology plays a huge role, and I think that people automatically assume that technology's not a good thing just because of how much time that our students and how much time we spend on it, but I think technology can be a great tool if used correctly, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. But first I wanted to start with a couple quotes that I found that I just thought were really impactful for what I was presenting on today. So the first one says, "Education is evolving due to the impact of the internet. We cannot teach our students in the same manner in which we were taught. Change is necessary to engage students not in the curriculum we are responsible for teaching, but in school, period." And I just have to say from personal experience that I agree with this wholeheartedly. We absolutely cannot teach students in the same manner in which we were taught. And even me being 21, I'm in a second grade classroom. And I remember when I first started, I would sit down to do a math problem with them, and I would show them how I was taught, and they would say, "What are you doing? That's not how you do that." And they would just do something, and I had no clue what was going on, and I wasn't even in elementary school that long ago. So it just proves, it was really an eye opener for me to see how much education changes and how much our instructional strategies change. I mean, every year they're changing the curriculum, they're changing the standards. So it's just a testament to, we need technology to keep up with the changes that we're making in education. The second quote says, "We need technology in every classroom and in every student and teacher's hand because it is the pen and paper of our time, and it is the lens through which we experience much of our world," which is very true. Unfortunately, we can't have classrooms right now where there's technology in every single classroom, which I think is very unfortunate, but we can still make it work, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So we can still make it work in our classrooms even if we have limited access to technology. But for a lot of these children, that is how they experience their world. I mean, that's how they communicate with people. That's how they find out what's going on in the world. Everything, a lot of the lessons and the things that they learn from TV shows or things that they see on television or on the iPad. I mean, their whole world is centered around technology. So it's awesome that we can bring that into the classroom and really engage them. And I'll talk about how we can do that here in a little bit. So first things first, what is differentiation and what is our role as teachers? Differentiation is a hard concept to kind of summarize into one sentence, but Carol Tomlinson kind of summed it up best. I'm sorry about that. Carol Tomlinson kind of summed it up best, in my opinion. She said, "Teachers in differentiated classrooms accept and act on the premise that they must be ready to engage students in instruction through different approaches to learning, by appealing to a range of interests and by using varied rates of instruction along with varied degrees of complexity in differing support systems." And I think that's just like a perfect sum it up definition of what differentiation is. So we have to engage our students through different approaches because not all students learn the same way or at the same rate. And not all students can complete the same complex tasks as other students can. So we really have to be supportive in that and find ways to engage our students and to ensure that no student is being looked over in terms of instruction and the kind of instruction they're receiving. So moving on to my kind of opinion on it is that our world is ever changing and ever developing. I mean, every day they come out with something new, something changes. So it's important that we as teachers stay up to date with the most effective ways to differentiate in our classroom. So don't get me wrong, the ways that we've been differentiating for years are great. I mean, small groups, leveled reading, things like that. Those are great ways to differentiate. However, not only are the state standards requiring integration of technology and 21st century skills, but it should be one of the tools that we use most to differentiate instruction because it engages our students while also providing more innovative ways for students to learn content differently and at different paces. And I'll give some examples of that here in a little bit. So the first thing I want to talk about is RAS Kids. So this is how I differentiate reading instruction for my students. I'm just going to pull this out a little bit so you can see. This is how I try to differentiate instruction for my students because it's awesome. So it's an online program. It can be accessed through a desktop computer, an iPad, the smartboard even. So what it is there's 29 different levels of text ranging from A to Z, A being a lower level text, Z being the highest level text. So as they move through their books, they increasingly get more difficult to help the students improve comprehension and fluency. So they read their text at their level. They get to choose what their text's about. So it kind of caters to their area of interest. So what they like, what they want to read about, which my cooperating teacher and I were talking. It's so hard because so much of what students read now in school is what the teacher provided for them. Very rarely do students just get to pick a book and read. So this is really great for them because it's something that we want them to do, but they also get a say in what they read, and I think that makes them more excited to read. So not only can this be used for individualized instruction, which is what we use it for a lot, but it can be used for whole class or even small groups. For example, I was looking for a nonfiction text one week for my smaller group. Not my smaller group, my lower group in small group reading. There's about 4 of my students that are in that group, and I was having a pretty difficult time finding an informational nonfiction text that was on their level that I thought they would be interested in. I mean, there were a couple, but I was like, there was no way that they were going to sit down and read about, something they didn't care about. My kids love animals, so I was trying to find a good nonfiction book about animals, but I couldn't find one on their level. So I went to RAS Kids and I actually found one that they really ended up enjoying. So I got to select the reading level and then filter it. You can see on the screen nonfiction informational. So I found a ton of books, and I ended up just printing some out for them to read that week, and they really loved it. So it really works out, and they can access it at home too if they have their login. So if they do have technology at home, they can access it at home as well, which is really awesome. So yeah, it's really great for differentiation because the kids, they have no clue what their peers are working on. They don't know what level their peers are on unless their peer tells them, which you run into that. But then the teacher also has complete control over each student's portal. So, for example, student B could be on a level F, so they can only maybe access like level C through H, maybe. So they gradually progress and they get more difficult, and then it kind of helps them build fluency and comprehension. So hopefully they can build up to that H level, and then we can add more in there. So it just kind of helps because then you're not giving them open access. So, someone who's on an E will not have access to an S book. Like, that's just really not fair to the student either, because then they just get frustrated. They don't want to do it anymore. But RazKid's definitely one of the most, I think, not one of the most, I just think it's a really important tool, and I think that it's really awesome, and I hadn't heard about it until student teaching, but I think it's just really great for engaging students and differentiating your reading instruction as well. So I definitely would recommend RazKids. So that's for reading. For math, you could do Prodigy, which I love Prodigy. At first, I had no clue what it was, and it looked like a video game. Like my kids would be working on Prodigy, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it would almost be like, are you supposed to be doing that? But yeah, it was actually how they were practicing their math. So it's similar to RazKids because the students can access their material through that personalized portal that's catered directly towards their math abilities. So at any time, the teacher can access this portal and add either more advanced problems or simpler math problems for that particular student. So this is awesome as well because students can actually join worlds and play with their peers. And it's also just a really fun game, so they don't even realize that they're getting math instruction, which is awesome. Anytime that my kids ask me, Ms. Miller, can we do Prodigy? Like, they're so excited. I'm like, yes, absolutely, go do Prodigy. So it's really awesome, and each kid, even my lowest student in the class for math, he loves it. So it's really exciting to see how taking video games, which most kids love, and technology, and getting to use the iPad, taking that and finding a way to incorporate that into math instruction is great. So moving on. Like I said, students can play with their classmates and other peers, but even when they're doing that, their peers are unable to see what problems they're working on, what level they're on. It doesn't matter. So it kind of helps, and I think a lot of times what teachers run into with differentiation is, and I never thought about it like this until one of my cooperating teachers told me. She was like, I used to group my students by ability, which is, as teachers, that's the easiest thing for us to do. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but this just really opened my eyes. This comment she made, she said, and my students started to notice we're grouped by our ability because my students would say, why am I always in the same group? Oh, am I in the dumb group? I mean, kids really do pay attention. They really do notice these things. So we really want to be considerate when we're thinking about ways to differentiate because we don't want our students to feel left out or, ashamed of the level that they're on because we're all working towards the same goal. Some of us just work at different paces, which is really important to remind your students of. So it makes students feel like they're playing a fun video game, but it also ensures that they're gaining instruction that is catered to their needs and their abilities. So that's really comforting as a teacher to know that they're still getting that instruction. So to cast a spell, which is part of the game, students complete a math problem. I just have an example of a math problem here. So what is the name of this shape? This would obviously be a lower level student. So A is square, B triangle, C rectangle. They would click the correct answer, hit cast spell, and they would move on. So these pencils over here on the screen, they can actually draw out their work or write their work down if they want to solve the problem, and they love that. They get to use the different colors, and they just really enjoy it. So it's a great way to differentiate math instruction for my students. Another thing is QR codes, and I was really excited to research about this because I'm very interested in QR codes, but they're kind of one of those things where I was always like, so what exactly is that? Like what exactly does it do? So basically you can link a QR code to a website. That's the most common use for it, is linking it to a website. But it's just a really great way to differentiate anything. So I'll just give you an example. I have a friend who's a second grade teacher in Rowan County, and she uses QR codes to differentiate her spelling test. So she uses a voice recorder. So the night before or a couple days before the spelling test, she'll record herself. I think she has like 3 different spelling tests that she'll give. So she'll record herself giving each spelling test, and they're different levels. And then she will assign it to a QR code, and the students come in, and granted she's in a 1-to-1 school, so that means that each student has access to an iPad. So her students will come in, they'll have a QR code on their desk, they know it's time to take the spelling test, they scan the QR code, headphones, they listen to their spelling test. No one knows what spelling test they're taking. They do their spelling test based on what group they're in. And I thought that was a really awesome idea. So that's one way that it can be used, just an example. Another thing is it's just really great because it saves time. So if you're doing a research project and you need students to access multiple websites, this is a great way to do it because they don't waste a ton of time trying to type in the websites. Because I don't know about you, but my students are in second grade and typing is still a little iffy for them, so it takes them quite a while to type out a whole website and get where they're supposed to be. And if there's a typo, they have to delete the whole thing, and so it just takes a lot of time, but QR codes really cut that time almost in half, if not more. Because they can just scan it, takes them right to where they're supposed to be. You don't have to worry about them accessing websites they're not supposed to be on, things like that. And it's really great for ELL learners who might have difficulty typing in a website as well. So it's also confidential means of accessing differentiated materials. So like with the spelling test, no one knows what QR code their friend has. All the QR codes look the same, but the material that is attached to them might be differentiated, which I just think is awesome in general. So, I think, so yeah. Moving on. So what if your school lacks a one-to-one technology initiative, or what if your school doesn't have access to a bunch of technology? So that's really not an excuse. So basically work smarter, not harder. So it is going to seem at first really difficult to figure out ways to do all of this fun technology stuff without technology. But I mean, most schools have computer labs. You could sign up to take your students, even if it's just once or twice a week, to do Raz Kids or Prodigy. Your students are really going to benefit from that regardless. So I would just keep that in mind when you're, it's easy to just say, oh, well, I don't have access to that technology, so I can't do this. But you can. You just have to, it's going to be a little bit harder, but as educators, I mean, we're up for the challenge. We're looking for the ways to ensure that our students are getting what they need. All of our students, most of us will have a diverse population of learners. So it's really important that we're meeting the needs of all of those learners and not just a select few. So even small groups. So actually the school that I'm in right now for student teaching, we don't have a one-to-one technology initiative. So we only have 5 iPads per classroom, and my classroom has 18 students. So, 1 per every 3 students. So what we do is we do small groups, and one of their rotations is working with the iPads. So each student gets about 20 to 30 minutes with the iPads a day. That really works out because they get to do their Raz Kids and their Prodigy and all that. It's just not everyone at the same time, which I almost think works a little better too. So it really can work out. You just have to think of ways to help it work. And you can use the internet, the tool, to help you figure out excuse me, ways to implement these instructional strategies as well. So basically, although technology is a great tool, it's not replacing your role as a teacher. So don't forget that. I mean, you're still the teacher. You can still, reach these students and differentiate for these students. But technology is just an awesome tool that we can use to really make sure that all of our students are getting what they need and they're being engaged. So these, and to be honest, they're going to need it as they go through life, as they go through school. They're 21st century learners. They're going to need to know how to use technology, and they're going to need it to excel later in life. So it's important that we start now and try to find as many ways as possible to incorporate technology into our classrooms. And obviously, as teachers, we still have to meet our standards. So those 21st century standards, the STEM initiatives, all of that stuff, we have to meet that stuff. So why not just go ahead and implement it in our everyday instruction by differentiating with it? But basically, my main point of all of this is these are all great ways to differentiate instruction using technology in your classroom. But our main goal at the end of the day as teachers, I think, is to create an innovative and empowering environment for a variety of learners. So you want these students to come into school excited about what they're learning, feeling like they aren't limited because of their ability or their needs in the classroom. And I just think that if it's something they love, our world revolves around it. Technology, it does. So why not use that to our advantage? It's just a great way to really ensure that your classroom is going above and beyond for your students. And at the end of the day, as teachers, our students are our number one priority. And any way that I can make learning easier for them, more fun for them, is a win in my book. So that's kind of just what I researched and what I learned about some different ways that we can incorporate technology in our classroom and differentiate with it. So I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope that this will be something that you refer to next time you're planning a lesson for your class, or a reading lesson, or a math lesson. I hope that you'll consider some of the stuff we talked about today. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I'm really excited about this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's it, and I hope that you enjoyed it and you'll be able to implement this into your classroom or your future classroom. Thank you.